Elyse? Elyse?
Yesterday morning it was over 400.
Hurry up, Elyse. It's almost 7 o'clock, honey. You still have to do this pod.
I don't remember the entire situation, more so like leading up to it, not wanting to go to the doctors, and then getting there and them telling me that I have to go to the hospital.
It was in August of the year she was diagnosed, and we were getting ready for bed one night. And prior to that, she had been using the bathroom really frequently, and she was up that night and was very lethargic, and we had made a decision to take her to the doctor in the morning before her sister took her out the following day. She was taking her out for her birthday.
I didn't know what was happening because I was 7.
When we got to the doctor, they just did a simple urine test to test for a urinary tract infection, and when the doctor came back in the room, they basically told us that we had limited amount of time to get Elyse to the hospital.
When I got there, they just tested my blood sugar. I didn't really know what any of it meant, but they told me it was really high. So I was on like fluids and just everything to get it down. For reference, it's supposed to be around 80 or 90, so it was in the like high 700s, 800s.
I had no idea what that was about and what it entailed, but I told her it'd be okay, not knowing the impact it would have on all of our lives.
When they first told us that she had type 1 diabetes, it's kind of like someone telling you something in a different language. You don't even know how to react, or you don't know what you're in store for. But once we got to the hospital and we knew that we were going to be there for about a week, the reality of it started to set in.
I remember having to take my blood sugar for the first time and being like, this is the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to have to do this over and over and over.
We used syringes and a vial of insulin, so every time she needed to bolus for a meal, which is when you count the carbs and then you decide how much insulin you need for a meal, we would just draw it up into this needle, and in the beginning I would give it to her, usually on the back of her arm or on her stomach, and then over time Elyse got good at giving it to herself.
You don't do that on a regular basis, though.
I do say that. Make sure you take enough insulin for your lunch.
That's what you say, but you don't usually say this
You
shit.
know you're trying to do this, and I'm going to be late for work too. What needs to be written on that bag?
Make sure you put the 50 carbs in for your bagel.
The nurse or doctor came in with a little stuffed bear that had these little patches on it that kind of helped me practice on the bear instead of myself. So here's the bear. His name's Rufus. The ones on the hands were to practice testing my blood sugar, which I do on my fingertips. The one on the stomach was for like when I had to do my insulin injections with the pen, which I tended to do more so on my stomach or my arms. And then the legs were for when I would use my long-acting insulin, which I used overnight with the syringes that I would have to do in my thighs. I started to use the pen. There's usually a vial in here. You just dial up however many carbs, push the button.
And that replaced the syringes.
At this point in my life, everything feels pretty normal, but I know it's not.
It takes a lot out of a parent every day just to raise children that don't have chronic illnesses. Having a child with a chronic illness, it demands that you be on all the time. You know, having to call her when she's out because her sugars are high and she's trying to have fun with her friends.
My friends are normally pretty good with it. Like, they know everything.
We both, and I think all of our friends, just kind of monitor whenever she eats and just make sure that she puts in her insulin, make sure she doesn't, like, slack off or anything like that.
And I'm always asking her, like, if she took insulin for her food and, yeah, making sure everything's stable.
All my friends now I've been friends with since before I even got diagnosed. So they've been with me the whole time.
My mom, like, didn't really explain. She just kind of told me that Elyse was in the hospital, and I didn't really understand, like, what that meant because I was so young.
When she was little, there was a lot of me doing all the injections and the monitoring, but as she's getting older, it definitely shifts a little bit towards her.
What I currently use.
That's called an Omnipod.
In this little box, it has a needle that you have to screw the cap on. You screw on the needle like this, and then you take the cap off, and you use the insulin, and you fill it up to however much, and then you put it into the pod, and then you prime it, put it on, and that's it.
And the pod is controlled by this, is called a PDM. It's a personal diabetes manager. Enter her carbs and all the settings in there. You just would dial in how many carbs for a meal, and the settings of how many, what her insulin to carb ratio is all programmed into this personal diabetes manager. The issues with that, of course, with a lot of other things in medicine are insurance coverages and things like that. So we're doing this the best way we can, even though there are better things out there.
She doesn't let things stop her from achieving her goals.
Plays defense on soccer, and she also runs track.
It doesn't really affect the playing a whole lot. Getting fouled in games and stuff, obviously, many times. My pods and sensors have been ripped off because people like push me on the side and then it'll like come off.
It's just her determination, how tough she is, that she was very successful, and that's carried through with all the sports.
I'd have to say that our worst day, our low, was, it was actually supposed to be a really good day because it was the day of her a birthday party that she was having. After that, we were headed over to Children's Hospital for her T1Y1 visit, which is the last visit marking the end of the first year of her living with type 1 diabetes. And as we were, headed over the bridge, she was eating this snack, and then I just remember pulling into the parking garage at Children's Hospital, and I turned around because she was kind of being quiet, and she was laying across the back seat of my car, and it was pretty. It was a pretty violent seizure, so I parked the car. And of course, there was people honking at me to try to move my car. And everybody thinks they're going to be calm and be able to handle a situation. But as a mom, it just didn't work out that way. So I kind of was asking for help while everybody was honking at me. The woman in the car, there was a man and a woman in the car behind me. And the woman said to her, I could see them. She said, she needs help, she needs help. And I remember going to grab a glucagon. It's an emergency insulin kit. And it requires you to take a vial of insulin and put a liquid in it and then mix it up and then draw it back up before actually administering it to your child. Now, that's ridiculous to think that a parent who's watching their kid have a seizure could do this. Unfortunately, when I opened the kit, then this glass needle, which is what the liquid is in, the top of the needle broke off. It's not entirely clear because I was screaming because the glucagon didn't work out. I remember laying on the ground while she was having her seizure, and she was chewing. I was chewing glucose tablets and trying to spit them in her mouth. And at this point, the man who got out of the car next to me had noticed that she stopped breathing. So he started to administer CPR. And people from the resuscitation bay at the hospital had come out and gotten her. You know, they had to like cut her clothes off and things like that. And it's just something, I mean, that was only after a year, and you just don't know how you could be having a great day and then the bottom falls out on it. I remember going to the pharmacy to get her medicine at the hospital, you know, when we were leaving, and there was no record of her even being there, because when you're brought in through the resuscitation bay, they actually give you a fake name. And even on her door in her room at the hospital, it said ZETA 84. ZETA was the name that they had given her. And we just always, you know, remembered that as a marker of a day that was, it was bad, and I'll never forget. It's just always keeping an eye on that is very difficult. So I think sometimes the way I react to her even now, I mean, 8 years later, the way I react to her when her sugars are dropping fast it's because I'm scared. But as I've said before, every day is a struggle, and there are a lot of good days and there's bad days. So there are good days. There has to be, or else she can't let something like this get her down. You can't live life not have a lot of good days.
Having to and make sure my thing connects to me, see what it is, or just eating, having to wait, or when you can't eat because your blood sugar's too high at the time.
She is always putting herself out there to take care of her friends' needs more than what she needs to get done on her own.
She knows what she wants, and she always goes for what she wants.
Her involvement in sports and her academics, regardless of having to live life like this, there are good days. Knowing that she can do anything even though she has this is a good day.
He loves the brother. Your little sister? Yeah.
You can actually get a video record. Pretend like you're just seeing her for the first time.
Nothing wrong with that anyway. Hi. Hello.
Hey, what are you doing? Getting a drink?
Num num. You didn't want to be here?
Yeah, you gonna play in the snow?
It's gonna be fun.
Mommy gonna go with you in the snow?
Not you.
Not me.
No.
Yay! Clap hands, Elyse. Yay! Clap your hands.